gonna tell him what a cheap, lying, no good, rotten, four-flushing, low-life, snake-licking, dirt-eating, inbred, overstuffed, ignorant, blood...
Christmas Vacation wasn't just a holiday comedy. It was controlled chaos, wrapped in 25,000 lights. Behind the perfect family disaster, a director quit in terror. A trained squirrel died the morning of filming. And Chevy Chase couldn't remember his own lines, so the entire cast wore cue cards around their necks. These are 17 weird facts about National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And buried in the bonus, a painting, a turkey, and only one usable take: string up the lights. This Griswold guarantee is about to blow.
Most enduring traditions of the season are best enjoyed in the warm embrace of kiss.
Number 1. Chris Columbus lasted exactly 2 meetings with Chevy Chase. Before Jeremiah Chechik ever touched a camera, Warner Brothers had a different director. Chris Columbus, fresh off writing Gremlins and The Goonies, was brought in to helm the film. Then he met Chevy Chase, twice. Columbus later called the meetings bizarre. Chase treated him, in his own words, like dirt. No collaboration, no respect, just cold dismissal from a star who'd already made it clear he ran the set. After the second meeting, Columbus walked. 2 weeks later, he landed Home Alone, a film that made him one of the biggest directors in Hollywood and earned over $476 million worldwide. Meanwhile, Christmas Vacation went to a first-time feature director who'd never even watched the first 2 Vacation films. Sometimes the best career move is knowing when to leave the room.
Looks great. Little full, a lot of sap.
Number 2. Filming started with 0 snow in Colorado. March 27, 1989, the production rolled into Breckenridge, Colorado, ready to shoot. There was one problem: no snow, not a flake. The mountains were bare, the streets were dry, and panic set in fast. So the crew hauled in snow. 10 massive trucks driven up to the mountaintops, loaded with whatever frozen pack they could scrape, then dumped across the town like a stage-managed blizzard. It worked, barely. Then, 5 days later, nature struck back. 87 inches of snow fell in less than a week. Filming stalled, equipment froze. The cast couldn't leave their hotels. What was supposed to be a controlled winter wonderland became an actual disaster, and somehow, that's exactly what the movie needed. Number 3. The Griswold house wasn't real. The lights were. It's not in Chicago. It's not even a real house. It's a set on the Warner Brothers Ranch backlot in Burbank, the same structure used as Roger Murtaugh's home in Lethal Weapon. But for Christmas Vacation, they transformed it. 25,000 lights, 250 strands, 100 bulbs each, all rigged across the roof, walls, and yard. The trick? Hidden wire mesh panels built into the set design. The crew could install and remove the entire display in minutes between takes, and the power draw? 175 kilowatt. That cost $73.50 a day in 1989 electricity rate. Over a full December, $2,205. Adjusted for inflation, $5,294. Clark Griswold didn't just light up his neighborhood. He burned through a small power grid.
Daddy! Clark coming!
How the hell would I know?
Number 4. Warner Brothers begged Hughes to come back. John Hughes didn't want to write it. He'd already done 2 Vacation films, survived Chevy Chase twice, and moved on. But Warner Brothers begged. Hughes finally caved, but on one condition. He'd base it on his own short story, Christmas '59, published in National Lampoon magazine back in 1980. A quiet memory piece about family holiday dysfunction. Except now, it had Chevy Chase, a massive budget, and explosions. What started as nostalgic reflection became the loudest, messiest Christmas film of the decade, and it carried one more distinction. This was the last time National Lampoons appeared in the title of a vacation movie. The brand that launched the franchise quietly stepped aside. Hughes had written his way out, one rant at a time. Number 5. They had a trained squirrel ready to go. Then it died. The plan was simple. A trained squirrel, raised on set, rehearsed for weeks. Then, the morning of filming, it died. Heart attack. No warning. No backup. Suddenly, they had a scene built around a squirrel, and no squirrel to shoot it with, so they grabbed a wild one. Untrained, unpredictable, and absolutely feral. The chaos you see on screen, that's real. Cast members ducking, scrambling, genuinely trying not to get bitten. It took 3 full days to capture usable footage, and in the end, the scene became one of the most iconic moments in the film. Not because it was planned, but because it wasn't.
If you don't mind, Clark, I'd like to see if I can fumigate this here chair.
Number 6. Chevy Chase couldn't remember his own rant. He wrote the bonus rant himself, the explosive, profanity-laced meltdown, where Clark finally loses it on his boss. It was personal, cathartic, and according to everyone on set, completely unmemorizable. Chase couldn't hold the line. Take after take, he'd stumble, forget, start over. So the crew hung cue cards on ropes around the actors' necks like backstage passes. Mid-scene, they'd glance down, read the next line, deliver it, repeat. It turned the set into a walking teleprompter. And somehow, it worked. The rant stayed raw, the energy stayed live, and no one watching ever knew the whole cast was wearing their line.
Probably a bad pulse, son. You know, if one goes out, the whole thing.
Number 7. Teen Johnny Galecki accidentally talked himself out of a major scene. He was 14 years old, a kid actor playing Rusty Griswold, and John Hughes wrote a father-son moment for him and Chevy Chase, a quiet beat in the middle of all the chaos, something sincere. But Galecki didn't want to do it. He thought it would slow the movie down, break the rhythm, so he went to Hughes and convinced him to cut it. Hughes listened. The scene was dropped. Decades later, Galecki admitted he still kicks himself every day for that decision. What he didn't lose was everything else. Chase took him under his wing during filming, teaching him comic timing, how to hold a reaction, when to lean into the absurdity. That mentorship shaped his career. Years later, he'd carry those lessons straight into The Big Bang Theory. But somewhere in the vault, there's a moment between Clark and Rusty that never made it to screen. And Galecki's still thinking about it.
This house is bigger than your old one.
Number 8. Aunt Bethany was played by the original voice of Betty Boop. Mae Questel was 81 years old when she played Aunt Bethany, the confused, sweet, slightly unhinged relative who wraps a cat and recites the Pledge of Allegiance at dinner. It was her last film role, but her voice, that had been everywhere for decades. She was Betty Boop from 1931 to 1938, the squeaky, flirty cartoon icon who defined an era. She was Olive Oyl in the Popeye cartoons. Generations grew up hearing her without ever knowing her name. By the time Christmas Vacation rolled around, she'd stepped away from the spotlight. This was a quiet farewell, a small part in a big comedy. She delivered every line with perfect timing, completely committed to the chaos. Mae Questel died in 1998 at the age of 89. Her final gift to audiences? A cat in a box and the Pledge of Allegiance, iconic to the end. Number 9. Diane Ladd was only 1 year older than Chevy Chase. Diane Ladd was 54. Chevy Chase was 53. That's the math. And yet, she played his mother, not his aunt, not his older sister, his mother. At first, Ladd thought it might her career. Playing a mom to someone practically her age felt like Hollywood's way of saying she was done. But she took the role anyway. And then something unexpected happened. Christmas Vacation became a holiday staple. Year after year, the residuals kept coming. It became the most lucrative role of her entire career, a tiny part in a chaotic comedy that paid more than films where she'd been the lead. Ladd passed away in December 2024 at the age of 89. She spent decades joking about that 1 year age gap and laughing all the way to the bank. If you're still with us, hit that like button, subscribe, because this Christmas disaster is just getting started. Number 10. The Moose Mugs are a hidden callback to Wally World. True fans caught it immediately. The Moose Mugs. They weren't random props. They were a direct callback to Marty Moose, the mascot from Wally World in the original 1983 Vacation, a nostalgic thread connecting the films. The art department commissioned custom ceramic mugs shaped like moose heads, complete with antlers. They looked perfect on screen. The problem? They were fragile. Every single one of them broke during filming. Handles snapped. Antlers cracked. By the end of production, the prop team was scrambling to keep even one intact for close-up. What was meant to be a sweet nod to the past became a logistical nightmare, but that's Christmas Vacation. Even the props couldn't survive the chaos.
Sorry, folks, we're closed for 2 weeks to clean and repair America's.
Number 11. Christmas Vacation opened number 2, then quietly became a box office hit. Budget, somewhere between $25 and $28 million. Release date, December 1st, 1989. Opening weekend, number 2 at the box office, right behind Back to the Future Part 2. Not a disaster, but not a victory lap either. Then, something shifted. By the third weekend, Christmas Vacation hit number 1. Families kept coming back. Word of mouth spread. The holiday spirit kicked in. By the time it left theaters, it had earned $73.3 million domestically. Adjusted for inflation, that's $189 million. It didn't explode out of the gate. It built, week after week, screening after screening, until it became the Christmas movie. The one that plays every year. The one everyone quotes. It didn't just win the holiday season. It became it. Number 12. 4 SNL alumni starred, but the director had never seen the first 2 movies. Chevy Chase, Randy Quaid, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Brian Doyle Murray, 4 Saturday Night Live veterans, all in one movie. That kind of comedy pedigree should have guaranteed something. And yet, the director had no idea what he was walking into. Jeremiah Chechik was a first-time feature director. He'd never watched National Lampoon's Vacation. He'd never watched European Vacation. He showed up to helm the third film in a franchise he'd never seen. It was either bold or reckless. Maybe both. But somehow, the chaos worked. The SNL crew brought the comedy instincts. Chechik brought fresh eyes. And together, they made a movie that didn't feel like a retread. It felt like controlled disaster. Exactly what the Griswolds needed. Number 13. Hughes made this 3 days after wrapping Uncle Buck. John Hughes wasn't just busy in 1989, he was everywhere. He produced Uncle Buck, the John Candy comedy about a slob uncle babysitting his brother's kids. Filming wrapped. 3 days later, Christmas Vacation started shooting. Hughes didn't take a break. He didn't pause. He went straight from one chaotic family comedy to another, and while juggling both, he was also developing Home Alone, the script that would become the biggest comedy of the next decade. It was an insane schedule. Most producers would have collapsed. Hughes thrived in it, or at least he survived it. By the end of 1989, he'd shepherded 3 of the most iconic family comedies in modern cinema, back to back to back. No rest, no apologies, just controlled chaos on an impossible timeline.
Uncle Clark, are you Santa Claus?
Number 14. Ruby Sue wore a wig and had a crush on Johnny Galecki. Ellen Hamilton Latson showed up to set with short hair. The character needed long, stringy locks to complete the backwoods cousin look, so they gave her a wig. She hated it. Hot, itchy, uncomfortable, but she wore it through every scene because that was the job. What made filming easier? The massive crush she had on Johnny Galecki. She admitted it years later in interviews, laughing about how awkward it was to be a kid actor trying to play it cool around another kid actor while wearing a terrible wig and fake glasses. Galecki had no idea at the time. He was too busy regretting the scene he'd talked Hughes out of. Meanwhile, Latson was just trying to get through takes without blushing. The wig stayed. The crush stayed. And somehow, they both made it through Christmas. Number 15. Clark's 25,000 lights would cost over $2,000 in real electricity. 250 strands, 100 bulbs each, 25,000 lights total. The Griswold display wasn't just a sight gag, it was a power consumption nightmare. 175 kilowatts. In 1989, that kind of draw cost $73.50 per day in electricity. Run it for a full December, and you're looking at $2,205. Adjusted for inflation, $5,294. That's not holiday spirit. That's a second mortgage. Clark Griswold didn't just want the best Christmas display on the block. He wanted to bankrupt himself in the process. And somehow, that's exactly what made it perfect. The lights weren't decoration. They were obsession made visible. A middle-class dad's desperate attempt to control chaos by drowning it in wattage. It didn't work, but it lit up the entire neighborhood.
Oh, he's just yakking on a bone. He got it up.
Bonus fact, the turkey explosion worked only once. The exploding turkey wasn't random. It was inspired by a Norman Rockwell painting. The image of a family gathered around a disaster disguised as dinner. Pure Americana, soaked in irony. But making it happen on set, that was engineering. The crew built dozens of collapsing turkey rigs, each one designed to implode on cue, steam pouring out, the works. The problem? You only get one take per bird. Once it collapses, it's done. No resets, no second chances. So they built extras, lined them up, and prayed the timing worked. Most didn't, but the one that did, perfect. The turkey explodes. The family stares. And somehow, a painting becomes prophecy. Christmas ruined, one bird at a time. Christmas Vacation wasn't supposed to be the last National Lampoon's vacation film. It wasn't even supposed to exist. Hughes didn't want to write it. Columbus didn't want to direct it. The squirrel wasn't supposed to die. The snow wasn't supposed to dump. And yet, it all came together in the messiest, most chaotic way possible. Exactly like a Griswold Christmas. If this one hit home, drop a comment. Tell us what holiday disaster we should unwrap next. Because sometimes the best movies aren't planned, they're survived.